Okay, so I want to show you where I got to with the stitching, which was the last thing that I did. So here's the little detail of stitching that I did, not on every page, but just on the occasional page, just to make sure that I had extra marks and textures. So this spread doesn't have any stitching, but just little marks that kind of add dimension. Anyhow, I was having a lot of fun. These sort of plant-like, leaf-like patterns, and then the marks as in marking time. And this one doesn't have any stitching either. Okay, so stitching's done. Now the next thing I need to do is glue these backs together so I can have the book in its entirety and it will be more robust. So I want to show you what I did cutting out the cover. So the way that I measure it is I give a fraction of space at the back edge of the book, and I give a fraction more space on the front edge. So maybe 1 or 2 mil bigger than this cover, 1 or 2 mil on the spine side, and probably 3 or 4 mil around the other sides. It does allow for protection. This is not perfectly in alignment. You can see there's some sort of variation. So it does allow for protection of the pages, but you want to be able to sit your book up like this. And if you've got, when this is all glued together, this will be tighter. And you don't want the edge of the cover here to be so big and overlapping that it actually bumps. And I've got an example to show you where I did that, and it doesn't work quite as well. So let's put this one aside and I'll show you a couple of other works that you may have seen on other videos, but these are similar kinds of art books made from a single sheet. And what I wanted to show you was where the back cover came to the edge of the back sheets so that it's closest to the spine, and that way it folds out beautifully. This is a great example, this one. So just works really well and is really stable. I'm going to just organize all these sheets. Yep, there you go. So you can see that it lines up virtually with the back of the artist book page. Where I made a little bit of a boo-boo, and you can see that this has got maybe 5 mil in, proud of the back of the art page, and it comes very close to bumping into itself. So you can see when you stack it, it can be a bit tricky, and you have to be really careful of that dimension. All these others, you can see that I made a bit of room around the page so that the pages are protected by the hard cover. Okay, so I'll put those examples aside. Let's go back to this one. So what I've done is just take some good sturdy cardboard. It could be off a box, it could be off the back of an art pad or something like that. So you just want something with a bit of robustness, and I've just cut 2 perfect matching set for the front and the back cover. And the other thing that I've done is just grab some paper. So the other thing that I learnt was using paper that can be easily folded around the cardboard for the cover is a really good trick. If you're trying to use 300 GSM, it can be really tricky. So I've literally grabbed a page out of my sketchbook. So it's just a normal, probably 90 or so GSM type of weight in this paper, and I've just given them some marks using a comparable palette with the sort of style that's inside the book. And I've also done a little stencil onto tissue paper for the front and the back cover. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to go, but I know when I put these, I will put these on. So what I do know also is that these sheets are quite a bit bigger than I need, so I can wrap the pages around. And to get a bit of an idea, I cut out a mat that's the same basically blocks out and lets me see what will be on the front and back cover on each of these pages, so I can get a bit of an idea, because I can, you know, I can move one way or the other, and actually when I look at it, it doesn't matter all that much. They will work. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't going to end up with a not so great cover spread design when I do the folding and the wrapping. So I'm pretty happy with that. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and glue the book pages together, and I will show you how I glue these sheets onto the cardboard and make the covers. So I'll be back. So I'm going to use a matte medium to glue the pages down, and this is one of my favorite brushes that I've just got put aside for this specific purpose. I just pretty much use it on matte medium these days. It's fairly soft, and I know that it will spread well. Okay, so I'm going to put a piece of baking paper. I've just got some kitchen baking paper. I'm just going to put some sheets of that between each opening of the book and weight that down. So once I get all of those sheets between all of the pages, just in case any of the glue comes through in those holes, I'm just mindful of that, and weight it down so it becomes glued firm. Okay, so now I've got sheets of baking paper between each of the leaves, and I'm now going to put it under weight and let it be weighted for probably overnight, and I'll come back and finish gluing the cover on. But let's go and make the cover. So what we'll need for this, in addition to the matte medium, is you might need a pencil, and you definitely need a pair of scissors, because what I want to do is grab, let's do the back cover first, and I'm just going to move these little stencil tissues away because I want to glue them on last. So the way that I've found works well is I've got more or less, I think, the orientation that I want. I've got a bit of orange. Yes, that's good. Okay, so what I find is cutting off diagonal so you don't have so much weight of the paper, but leaving, and I'll just see if I can zoom in here. So cut the diagonal of the paper off because you don't need all of that, but make sure you leave sort of 4 or 5 mil there, because that will protect, that will roll over and protect the corner. So I'm going to do that on each of these, each of the 4 corners. So just make a mark where I want to cut. And just allow that 4 or 5 mil. And I'm going to keep this edge. I'm going to see whether or not I want to trim it when I fold it, just to see what it looks like. I could also trim a fraction off here so there's less weight, so I might do that. I'm just giving myself a rough line. So, okay, let's do that. If you've got a blade, which I do, but you could also use a blade for this process. I've just got scissors that are handy, so I'm just using those. So let's get this scraps away. And now the idea is to get the cardboard seated so it's pretty much square and you've got an even space from those corners out to the paper. So I just need to fiddle around with this for a second so it's more or less in place. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the edge of the short edge of the cover sheet over, so just folding it in place and creasing the line with my hand. I don't need a bone folder, it doesn't need to be anything that fancy. You can just feel there's a bit of there's a couple of mil of depth of the cardboard, so you just want to make sure that you've got a nice tight fit. Once they're down, it's easier to do the rollover of the longer edge. So I'm just going to hold these two in place and do the same thing. And just be careful, I just roll the corner, tuck the corner in and roll it against itself. So tuck the corner in and then roll over. And so what you end up with is a fairly neat corner that will glue down. Let me just see if I can get that in a bit closer to show you what I'm doing there. So I tuck the corner in, just use the edge of my nail, tuck that down and then roll it over. Tuck it down and then roll the long edge over. Okay. That's now in place, and I will do the folding of the front cover. So this was the back cover. I'll do the folding of that one and then I'll glue the lot and weight them. Okay, so the covers have been underweight, so they're finished and looking like they're glued down fairly well. Here's the book. Now what I want to do is glue the front cover, and I've actually, you might have noticed I wrote FT, so I know it's front top and back left, back lower. So what I want to do is glue that cover to there in that orientation and that cover to there in that orientation. So what I want is for the front and the back cover to line up when this is finished. So I'm going to use the matte medium again. And I'm also thinking, so you can see that there's a bit of unevenness, but in the back of the book, when you look at the spine, you can see how it's a bit uneven. That bit there sort of sticks up a bit, and the first sheet itself is a bit lower. So, you know, that's what happens when you do the handmade look. Okay, so I'm going to cover that up with some baking paper, put some weight on it, and then I'll leave it for several hours before I have a look at the final. So let's have a look at the finished product. So I've glued on the covers, and you'll see I've actually put the title and the back page tissue stencils, glued those on. So let's have a flip through. So there it is. So thanks everyone for watching, and I want to thank everyone who's put comments on part 1 and part 2 of this series. If you're interested and you're also enjoying the background music, you might like to know that Jennifer Ruth Russell and I have a podcast called Paintbrush and Ivories, and you can find that wherever you get your podcasts. And let me know if you've got any questions about any of the techniques that I showcased in this series of videos. And as always, if you've got any comments, I love to receive those. Bye for now.